My future's so bright. Gotta wear shades. Hola, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Soul Mechanics. This will be the final assessment for our atheist friends. I think that they've deliberately kind of positioned themselves in the frenemy, what do you call it, classification, the category of frenemy. I really didn't intend. Okay, I intended for them to be frenemies. I mean, they're seemingly intelligent people, as insofar as like textbook facts go and whatnot, and like reciting shit that your professor's gonna give you in college, or at training on the job. They're gonna give you little metaphors and analogies, and they're very good at reciting those things. They have a capacity for memory, and of course they have they're fighting alongside me in what I believe to be one of the most important battles humanity has to face together, one of our biggest challenges. And so I respect them in that regard, and they're vicious in it. They really have. It's causal for them because they've been duped before by the religions that they are fighting against. But uh, ultimately, they're kind of assholes. I mean, bottom line, I like them. They're cool people. They're good people for sure, but they're assholes. I mean, just flatly, most all of them. Not all of them. Obviously, some of them are going to be cool, but just cool. I mean, they're cool, but they're kind of like arrogant about it. And it's funny how they're arrogant about their understanding as it stands, considering that the only reason you know they're so fixed on that understanding and working with it is because they've been tricked before. So I mean, I'm not sure where that arrogance comes from. I think it's something that they kind of, they have this sort of high horse mentality that they spread about their community, while the Christians are kind of meek for the most part, and the religious people are kind of on the meeker end. I mean, they're fucking assholes. The religious people, holy shit, they can be real fucking assholes. They can be like actually bad people. But the thing of it is that they're kind of on the outs now. They're getting, at least in America, people are fighting back. The religious fanatics are on down and outs. They're losing. They're losing ground every day, and they are in fact meek about it. While the atheist community, as they grow, they just kind of become more and more arrogant with that high horse mentality, and that's kind of what we need to work with. I've mentioned this before in the video for the response clip for "Is Feminism a Sin?" I mentioned how this works, how it's kind of like a skewed perspective, wherein the atheists, who should be considered the bad guys in a manner of speaking, are kind of held in high regard and have this arrogant, prideful mentality, while the Christians, who should be seen as the light and the good guys for the most part, are in fact seen as the bad guys, and with good reason. So that's there's a skewed perspective for anyone who's on the outside of this battle, anyone who's not actually living in the battlefield, as it were. uh, you're gonna see things backwards, and everybody is seeing things backwards. This is a point we're gonna try and get across as best we can. I'm gonna speak directly to that in one of the next couple of videos I make today. Obviously, happy anniversary, all operatives of the initiative. Happy anniversary, most especially the foundation members who were there when we created it on 9/11, 2001, when the towers came down. We decided that we needed to be a response, and here we are. We're kicking ass. I'm not going to say I'm disappointed, but I'm lesser than, totally elated about the progress that we've made in the past year via the internet. Although over the past 17 years, outside of the internet and outside of this capacity, which this is exciting to be a part of this and to do this. It's an incredible tool, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. But outside of it, out here in the real world, over the past 17 years, we've done a hell of a lot of good. We've made some pretty enormous changes. We've saved a lot of people's lives. We've done a very good job so far. So anybody that is involved with the initiative, even if you're a newcomer, I'm proud. I'm very proud of you. I'm very, very proud of you. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what we've accomplished, and I'm exceptionally proud about what we are going to accomplish with this tool at hand. Got the sign, but it's really I got to actually help out with making the sign, so it's pretty cool. I am sort of an artist, or I used to be. I used to draw, but people. I draw people like cartoon people, and sometimes try to draw portraits of actual people. But um, I gave it up a while back, and I focused on writing, and I got into playing piano for a little while. But ultimately, I used to be an artist. I have the capacity in me, and I got to help out with the sign. But obviously, it doesn't look exceptionally awesome. I think it's pretty fucking cool, but we we both collectively we made a lot of mistakes on it, and it really does need to be replaced at some point. But for the time being, this is generally the idea. That's the design that we're making with the cog for the O, with the clock around it, the numbers for the clock around it, the Roman numerals, and then you can't really see it so well, but in the center of the cog, there's a yin yang, a blue and green yin yang, representing mind and body, while red would represent spirit, which is the overall consideration. But the cog as the O, the time represents mind, the cog represents body, the yin yang represents spirit. So we cover all three there. It's a memory, gravity, relativity uh, aspect in place. So that's just, I wanted to get that across as our symbolism for this. As I was saying, this will be this video will be the final assessment on the Heathen Hour podcast interview that I did and the people that I did the interview with. So very quickly flipping into objective gear for a moment, we have the two hosts are Shannon Q, who does her own channel that is kind of like a, you could say it's kind of like a therapy sort of channel, or that's at least the feel of it. The vibe of it is like a psychological therapy, because she does have degrees, again, in psychology. She has degrees. That is outstanding for her, and obviously it places her, on an even higher horse, because she has gotten these degrees, and she's full of, textbook basics facts. But obviously, as we've seen through the interview, that she does kind of make some pretty drastic mistakes in what she speaks of regarding those degrees and what she is supposed to know. Paulogia, again, floating cartoon head. His channel is amazing. He's got the cartoon news network kind of thing going on, and they pretty much just kind of make fun of religious people and what they have to say, comings and goings regarding religion, mainly Christianity, and they just kind of mock them and make fun of them, which we're going to speak to that. Anyways, I almost forgot. There's the host of Soul Mechanics, Donovan, Neal. I guess he's just, from what I can tell, he's just a really shady character who probably is addicted to a lot of drugs, because he's like skinny and he scratches his face when it's hot, and he's got cat hair on it. Um, he wears a suit all the time, most of the time. He sometimes even wears a tie. I mean, the dude is very business oriented. He seems like a very professional person. He's coming across as kind of like a salesman, a tricky, shady salesman who's not very good looking, from what I hear. And I guess he contradicts himself all the time. I haven't heard him contradict himself yet, but there are people who comment and say that he is in some way contradicting himself. Even in the interview, they went ahead and said that he was somehow contradicting himself, in stating that the God figure, the crazy God figure he believes in, is a force that can actually have a hand in your life if you kind of direct it to, but it cannot intervene in any way, or that it somehow it influences you. It's always communicating with you, this force he speaks of, but it can only really take action on your part depending on what you choose for it to. And obviously it's going to take positive or negative action depending on the way that you treat the world and yourself. And I guess somehow that was contradictory in their eyes. Somehow that was contradicting. I don't see the contradiction personally, but I mean, obviously, this Donovan guy is kind of a weirdo. So I'll just go ahead and trust the atheists on that one. Their word is probably respectable. Anyways, flipping back to prerogative here, let us begin. I should like to say it was very kind of you guys, Shannon and Paulogia and Godless Cranium, who hooked it up. Godless Cranium was in fact a part of that, though he did not show up. He had more important things to do. And I'm not, that's not a joke. I'm not being sarcastic. He had charity works to do, and I highly respect that. So good for him. I hope that that went well, but it's very kind of you guys to do that interview. But I mean, the intention was to kind of get my message out there and get people, at least toss it out there and have people take a look at it. But I mean, you guys didn't really seem to have quite the pull that I had hoped you did. I thought you guys were a bigger deal, really. Um, I mean, obviously you had initially intended ultimately just to kind of bring me on to mock me and to kind of make fun of me in a manner of speaking. That was the intention you had, at least. Evidently that was a mistake on your part, though. And that's okay. I understand you guys wanting to kind of mock and make fun of the pieces of yourself that embarrass you from your past. Having believed in religion and being involved in that, and for the most part being kind of cultists, and you escaped. That's awesome, and I understand you wanting to put down that part of yourself, especially when you see it in other people. It's a nasty habit, but most people have it. So I mean, it's unavoidable. Unfortunately, I am none of those pieces that you had intended to be mocking. Setting roots in religion, in modern religion, Christianity, actually believing in that sort of thing, I've never been that far off. Not ever. But I only believe in what I have proven to myself through personal experience, and I certainly do not dismiss or disregard anything that I have not investigated. Through my own experience, I investigate and I find the truth for myself. And if it doesn't agree with other people, that's fine. But in most cases, it does. If people actually give it a shot, take a look at it, objectively, it does. Oh, by the way, we got a cool swivel stand here. I can swivel the camera now. It's pretty bitchin'. I'm not going to swivel in the other direction because that is the more embarrassing part of my office. But anyway, I should like to make an observation, if I might. I must say that that sort of disrespectful, careless, dismissive kind of attitude that you guys have is probably what has you camped on the outskirts for the most part. I mean, you're not as poorly accepted as we are, I'll give you that, but you guys do present the easiest option, kind of as existential get out of jail free card. Modern education has it all figured, modern society has it all covered. We do not have to be responsible for what we believe because we don't have to believe anything, right? And so, for the most part, you went from being religious to kind of resetting back to high school, and now you don't really have any belief structure whatsoever, except that what you're given about science and evolution is absolutely certain, which it is absolutely not. That's still a faith-based consideration. You are still believing in something you do not know for sure and having faith in a force that you don't understand. So, I mean, that's what it is. And I mean, a lot of atheists even go so far as to raise nihilism as being an ultimate answer. And we've been down that road before. We know where it leads, and it is boring, empty, and useless. Continuing to mock people who, I mean, at the very least, they put up a fight for their own belief structure. It it's just getting us more divided. Really, it's causing more division. It's pushing us further away from each other, and it is kind of working alongside them in a manner of speaking. But we'll get to that in a moment. I mean, the entirety of your understanding the atheist community in general is based in denial. I mean, the atheist community is kind of superficially scientific, but where where you guys seem to place the bulk of your investment in life is in the this kind of debate rhetoric that you love so much, and this kind of argument mentality, built up as a shield, obviously, to protect you from parts of yourself that you cannot bear to accept. The pieces of yourself that were foolish, the pieces of yourself that were fooled. And I kind of like it, the debate rhetoric. I think it's fun, it's cool, but newsflash, you guys are still being fooled. I mean, you are fighting for division. You are actually fighting on the side of cognitive dissonance. So you're still being fooled. This is atheism, and the atheist movement, as it were, is a continuation of what religion presented. It's part of the same plan. You guys don't see that. It's very strange that you don't see that. Uh, but let's try to focus on the things that bring us together. What have we learned from this interview, people? Firstly, we learned that there may actually be a kind of principal force in existence that we have a conscious, considerate relationship to and with, and you know, given given proper investigation, we might have a solid, lucid relationship to this present force that is in fact, for the most part, designing life as it goes along. Just all it takes is a little proper investigation. We learned that there are many considerations beyond what the atheist community believes they know about the elder traditions that they have, carelessly clumped together with their own past mistake religions. That they don't really, the atheists put down these philosophical methodologies, our traditions, put them down, our heritage, and treat them, mock them and blow them off, considering them to be religion, as though they have anything to do with modern religion. They don't. Christianity, biblical scripture, what's come out of that, Muslim faith and such, the Quran, these things stand on their own. They have nothing to do with it. They stole a lot from the traditions, most especially our stories and what have you, parables and discernments regarding history. They stole a lot of ideas that come from our tradition, and they clumped them all together and used them as a conglomerate kind of formation of beliefs and methodologies, but they are not connected to them in any way. And these philosophical methodologies, our elder traditions that we work with, they are not religions, and they have nothing to do with the religions that you were duped by and therefore hate. So, I mean, blowing them off and putting them down where in fact you don't know much of anything about them at all, like you don't know the first thing about these traditions, yet you just clump them together with religion and put them down. So I mean, that's a problem. It's a mistake, and it's a problem for you. I don't care so much about it. You'll wake up eventually. Uh, what else? We learned that there are, in fact, safe, natural alternatives available to the extremely dangerous psych meds and dangerously addictive narcotics that are on the market, sold by the pharmaceutical corporations. There is indeed an alternative that is safe and healthy for you that you can make use of. And no, it's not illegal. Thank you, Paulogia, for telling people that it was, though. That was Anyways, we learned that the Jedi and the Force from Star Wars are most certainly based on our traditions, the traditions of spotters. We learned that atheists, most of the representative atheists, when faced with actual experiential experiments, will kind of rely on textbook psychology nonsense considerations to go ahead and dismiss them. Just to dismiss experimentation outright using I believe plagiarized, actually, connotations that kind of just blew it off as a shield, as a method of kind of, you know just rejecting the idea of performing these experiments, which again is not really very scientific. of you is it at all? And this is twice now that I've presented an experiment, a simple experiential experiment to investigate that you guys have blown it off. One of you, Demi, actually kind of hates me for asking her to play around with it, to give it a shot. She talks to me sometimes, but only to say shitty things. Uh, and I understand that. I understand you want to deflect. That's the word I was looking for. I understand you wanting to deflect the observation of these experiments because it moves you out of your comfort zone and causes for you to put your feet on the ground and actually take responsibility for your own understanding, which you haven't really been tasked with before, having gone from religious fervor to scientific fervor without any real self-inferred interim. It seems many of you don't really have much experience at all, really, with anything. They just kind of, you station yourself in this textbook argument, reasoning, rationality. Not all of you. Some of you guys have a grip. There's a few of you very highly respected people. I'd like to give a shout out to Dark Matters. Should he ever watch this, he's. I'm looking at you, bub. I'm watching you. I know what's going. I can see you. I'm spotted. Can't hide from me. Anyway, we learned that atheists to some degree comprehend that they are in fact communicating with the self, but avoid understanding the true meaning therein by utilizing textbook derivatives of basic psychology. But they do get it. I mean, you can't avoid that, really. You said yourself, my body is an emerging I forget what you said. It was a plagiarized term anyway. It was something you stole from somebody else, but I'm an emerging consciousness, or that cognitive whatever that I use to communicate with myself. You can't get away from that. You are communicating with yourself. There is a division between you and what you believe you are. Anyways, perhaps most sedimentary, most imperatively, we learned that true theism is belief in and the investigation of the mystery of consciousness itself, and the acknowledgement of having a relationship between the body or mind and the self. That it's just, you can call it whatever you want. You don't have to call it God, but it's the designing force in place. Thereby, it's placed as deity. It fits the description perfectly, so that's what it is. And if you believe that yourself exists and you have a body, you cannot avoid. It's kind of, we learned thereby that actually that atheists are kind of accidentally theist, really, without really knowing it. So that's kind of funny. The most important factor and the actual purpose behind the interview was religion. Religion obviously serves as a methodology promoting the concept of deity as being some specific person or idol that is, it promotes the devoted worship thereof, this false idol, whatever it may be, Jesus, the Bible, whatever the false idol is. It promotes the worship of that, and works to divide the self from the concept of God. It works to divide you from the true reality of what God is, and it kind of teaches people to forfeit their own personal responsibility. Many religions promote divisions of peoples, even, and discriminations, and pretty much religion is an effort toward an anti-theist value system. It's anti-theism. It promotes disconnection from the reality of God. It teaches people to worship something outside of themselves. It teaches people that they have no personal power or responsibility. Thereby, religion is, by definition, anti-theism. Whereas true theism is just kind of snapping to, waking up, and understanding what's really happening. We learned thereby, as I said, atheism is in fact a sort of accidental theism, where they believe in God, they just don't call it God, they don't acknowledge it as being God, and for whatever reason they think that it's not conscious and has no actual intention factor in play. They think that it's accidental. They think that God is just kind of bumbling around making mistakes. And you know what? It might be. We don't know that. That's why we're investigating it. It seems like that might be the case, but it is in fact conscious. It's alive. And yes, you can prove that to yourself through personal investigation by making an attempt at communicating with the world. It will communicate back. In fact, I just taught somebody this last night. They got it on the spot. What the the communication that they came up with, what they gave to me, insofar as I asked them to do a kind of a divination for me, to tell me what my personal, immediate personal problem was and give me an answer for it. And they did. They got it spot on, every last little value. All I told them was go ahead and look around and think about what the environment is communicating to you, what your intuition tells you about it. And she got it all straight up, right on, value by value. So awesome for that. Kelly is our new operator. She kicked ass. She's kicking ass. She's very fucking awesome. But yeah, atheism actually promotes truly theist values without really understanding what they are actually doing. However, they cross the line in promoting the concept that an existing God figure cannot be real, that there is no consciousness in play, and thereby, in that respect, they are following through on religion's trap planning, that the trap that religion had set up for them to go ahead and actually disconnect from God entirely. That's what you guys are doing, atheists. You're being duped into killing yourself, essentially. Pretty much. Yourself is the God in play. It's living through you. And you're disconnecting yourself with it entirely because religion duped you and you feel stupid. And so you go on and continue to be duped, making even worse assessments and moves. Anyway, as I did, pretty much alongside religion, atheism is going ahead and fighting for the sake of spreading cognitive dissonance. And that's a troublesome area, which we do have many of the atheist YouTubers on our list. My list, it's my personal list. We don't share it, all of us, but my personal list for people that I think are important, of import, and potentially powerful. Of everybody's of import, of course. Everybody's important. You are very important. But these people are on my list as people who could be important to our particular movement. Our what we're trying to accomplish, our battle here. If they can just screw their heads on straight, kind of open their eyes and pay attention to what's really happening. But for the most part, my operator and a few other people have suggested that I put that investment on suspension because the atheists are kind of, they brought me on their interview with the intention of just mocking me. They didn't even know what the channel was called. They don't have enough respect to do that smallest amount of research. And obviously, not having done that research kind of makes you ignorant, doesn't it? But then you go ahead and try to mock somebody else as though they're the stupid ones when you're just assholes. There's a bottom line, you're a bunch of assholes. But I do love you guys. I think you're awesome. Thank you so much for fighting insofar as fighting against organized religion, but you're wrong. Ultimately, you're incorrect in your ultimate considerations, and hopefully that'll change, and maybe I can make a difference thereby. I'll step in from time to time and try to deal with them, but yes, I'm going to go ahead and place that investment on hold for now because we have better, cooler, more important things to be doing. So happy anniversary again, all. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for your time. Thank you all so much for just being, period, especially anyone that's involved with the initiative, with Remnants, with Soul Mechanics. Thank you all so much just for being here. You're all awesome. I love you guys very much. I love the atheists too. Love everybody that's watching very much. I might not like some of you, but I do love you. Kila Salai, Terve Uni Siari, Namaste.